you so much for agreeing to interview for my channel. Before we get started, I want to give my friend's daughter a shout out because I've been wearing her makeup, well, her lip glosses, but she entered a contest for Essence magazine, and she was one of, like, I guess thousands of girls entered.
Yeah.
She was selected based on, I think she did an essay and she submitted a video. So they selected her and 3 other girls, I believe, and they put out something called Girls United, and it's by Essence. So it's Essence and Ulta Beauty Girls United.
Okay.
And I've been wearing her lip glosses, and they're really good. So I have on one now, and I've been wearing them in all my videos. And then this is like a little shimmer from my cheekbone. And her name is Ryan Sampson. Ryan is actually an artist, and she's in college.
All right, man. Well, you're looking good, cuz.
Thank you. You too. How old are you now?
54.
I was trying to figure it out. I was like, I think Tony's 7 years older than me. Then I was like 53, 54. I was like, shoot, my cousin looks good. He's in shape. Some of the things that have been of interest to me is prison reform and community service. I did get in touch with a man here a while ago to do some community service work. And after meeting with me, he wanted me to do something else that I didn't want to do. And I just kind of like ghosted him after that. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was community service.
But again, Tony C. Davis out of the great state of Georgia, married with 4 children, 3 grandchildren. Grew up here in Cedartown all my life. Actually born in Cleveland, Ohio. My mom and my dad. Mom and my dad met. My dad was from Ohio. My mom, of course, from Georgia. We had family that had gone to Ohio, and they met, and here I am. So we moved to Cedartown when I was about 2, and I'd go back from time to time to visit relatives. And again, Georgia boy, I guess you want to say. My wife and Zeta and I, we've been together a total of 32 years.
Woo!
Oh, wait, let me back up. Been together 36 years. Married 31 years. I didn't.
Oh.
It wasn't one of my plans. It wasn't one of my goals.
Okay.
Grew up in the church. As a kid, I guess I remember about 5 or 6, our family, our grandmother grew up in the church, of course, and we had to go to church. Not necessarily that I wanted to, but I had to go. And whenever we went over to grandma's house, you definitely had to go to church.
Sure did.
And so I would, try to get away from going. It didn't work. But about 5 or 6 years old, somebody told me that I was going to be a preacher. I remember that. 5 or 6 years old, because we go to church and I'd have to stand up and say scripture and stuff like that. But I didn't want to preach, wasn't my goal. Long story short, my brother Michael, he died at the age of 6. I was 10. And I can remember, hearing those stories. I was going to be a preacher. And so when Mike passed, I was angry with God. I actually have a book on that, how I actually got to the pulpit. But I was angry with God for several years. I went opposite of everything that, I was raised in and what I was taught. Long story short, I ran for several years. I was an alcoholic, became an alcoholic once I was in the military. And I tell anybody, the Army says, be all you can be. Well, I came out an alcoholic. and I don't blame the military for that. That was some of the choices that I made.
Right.
But by the grace of God, I abstained from alcohol I haven't had alcohol in 30-something years, but I gave my life to Christ.
Okay.
Gave my life to Christ, and I've been serving Him ever since. So to say I chose it, I didn't necessarily choose it. It was just a calling on my life.
I was thinking about Mike. I have one vivid memory, as old as I am, of him. The memory was we were in your parents' station wagon, and we were like popping up and down, and like we were like playing like hide and seek, and he was like popping up, and I was like going up and down, and that's the one thing I remember. That's the only thing I remember. Yeah. And I had to be super young. You said he was 6.
He was 6. So
I was about 3 or 4.
Well, community service could mean anything. Depends on who you ask. A lot of people
Okay.
see community service as just, going around picking up trash, which that's good. That's
Right.
good. Those are some things that are needed. But when I think of community service, I actually think of hands-on stuff. You mentioned somebody wanted you to do some community service, which is research. That's great also. But
Right.
for me, I like the hands-on stuff out there,
Right.
getting my hands dirty, talking to some of the young guys on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
being their mentor, or at least trying to,
Yes.
being active in the community.
Okay.
Oftentimes in our communities, we complain about situations, but
Mm-hmm.
we never get involved. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, when it comes to community service, you need to get involved in what's going on in your city and your county, especially if you're a community leader, call yourself a community leader.
Right.
Like as a pastor, the people in the community, the city commissioners, county commissioners, they should know something about you. The police in the city should know something about you. And
Okay.
oftentimes, people take on the role or the title as community leader, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody in the community knows them. It's not about trying to make a name for yourself, but it's actually, showing some evidence that you're doing something in the
Right.
community.
That's interesting because I drive the back roads to Orlando. Like, so if I'm going to Orlando, I'll take the back roads. And there are these little like cities from Fort Myers to Orlando, like Arcadia, Fort Meade, and there are little pockets of Black people in these little cities. And when I see them, they just look so depressed, like they have no hope. And I don't know if it's because, and it's truly country. It is country. Woo! I don't know what it is, but I just want to be like, dude, you are a king. Like, hold your head up, pick your pants up.
Well, if you don't see anything different and nobody shows you anything different, then you don't know. And I hate to say this, and I pray your viewers don't take offense, but oftentimes you have to want to know. You have to want to know.
Yeah.
You have to want something better. I heard somebody say this a long time ago. They didn't know that they were in poverty because everybody around them was poor. And so, although that can be a good thing in the sense that you don't get the big head, but at the same time, you never know what's out there if everybody around you is on your same level.
That's correct.
One of my favorite, thoughts is if you have a first grade education, don't get all your information from somebody with a first grade education. At least get somebody with a second grade education.
Right.
Somebody knows just a little bit more, and I'm sure your audience knows what I mean. You've got to get somebody a little bit above your level of understanding of education and experience to actually know what's out there. And so then you have to want it. Like I said,
Right.
even though you may have had a chance to experience it or see it, then you have to want it. That's something we have to do. We have to try to educate ourselves. To be able to show people something different, to give them an experience. I get a lot of, I tell a lot of people, I go to meetings and things where I sit with people who are millionaires.
Okay.
Because nobody in my inner circle, until recently, is a millionaire. And I do that to get the knowledge. If there's intellectuals, I go to those meetings and I'll sit there and I'll take notes. Won't say a word. They won't know I'm from Cedartown until I open my mouth. And you go to different places so you can get the knowledge, and then
Right.
to get the knowledge, come back and put it into practice. Another friend of mine, he said, for a lot of us, we are addicted to information, but we're allergic to application. So once you get that knowledge, then apply it. So going back to your question, if I know that there's better opportunity out there, I want to go out there and learn that and bring it back to my community and getting involved, allowing them to see, something better. Going to the community meetings. When all this stuff with George Floyd happened in our city, there was a push to go out and protest. And I understand there needs to be protests. And since I am somewhat of a community leader, my question I had posted on Facebook, why are we protesting? Are we protesting because at that time, they were burning stuff in Minneapolis, they were burning stuff in Atlanta and some other areas. Are we going to protest simply because everybody else is angry and is protesting? Or do we have some legitimate concerns here in Cedartown that we should have addressed a long time ago? So I don't have a problem with, you know, protesting and standing up for some things, but at the same time, in a little city like Cedartown couldn't deal with burnings and things like that. We couldn't survive it. You know, we're a small town, so we wouldn't survive it. Oftentimes people who have no vested interest in the community, who have actually done nothing for the community, oftentimes they will begin to jump on the bandwagon and be more than happy to destroy stuff and, you know, talk the city down. You know, Cedartown isn't the greatest city in the world, but it's home for me. I can't, with integrity, put the city down. And not saying that I should, but I shouldn't put the city down if I haven't been involved in the city. If I haven't tried to be an active role into bringing some change in the city. Again, going to the meetings, volunteering in certain areas, that's what's needed. But oftentimes people would sit back and complain, but never take action.
You are a good Black man. Thank you.
I mean, that's serious though. I mean, why should we complain about something that we're not going to be, you know, active in a resolution? It doesn't take any action or anything required to complain, but it takes work to bring about change. There was a time we'd be in like Bible study and you hear gunshots going off. Well, instead of just complaining about it, go out there and do something about it. And I know, and I'm not a person that wants to put my life on the line, but at the same time, if you're going to be a leader and you want to see some change, you have to be able to get out there or willing to get out there and possibly get hurt. I'm just being honest with you. When you're addressing the things like drugs and gang violence and stuff like that. So what I did, I got a group of men and we just started walking the streets, talking to some of the guys. Some of the guys were drug dealers, and we weren't going out there to challenge them or threaten them, but to let them know you're not going to sell drugs on these streets. We're gonna address it right now. We're not challenging you, but we don't want it on our streets.
How is your message received?
I mean, I get pretty much respect.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, some of the guys who have dealt drugs, they come to me and they ask me, you say, well, I don't want to sell drugs, but that's all I know. And I'm going to say this is a problem for the church. We oftentimes tell people, God will fix it, pray about it, you know, just wait on God. But then you're talking to a guy who's possibly gone and done some stupid stuff in their life, gone to prison. Once they get out of prison, if we don't have something for them to do, God will fix it isn't going to work for them, because after you have that conversation, they've got to go home and be able to keep the lights on, put some food on the table, keep a roof over their head. So we have to get involved and develop some kind of opportunities for them. Well, for me, it is out there being active, mentoring, tutoring with some of the boys in our community, because within the Black community, I'm sure you already know this, we need strong Black role models. Oftentimes they aren't there. As a pastor, as a father, you know, want to be an active role in some young man's life. I would recommend the same thing for Black women, to actually be an active role in young ladies' lives. And so that's some of the things I've done. Our church actually recently partnered with a group where we're actually giving food to those in need 2 times a month. And we want to encourage people. We actually have the lady that I partnered with, she has a mentoring or a tutoring program. We actually started that a couple of weeks ago. Well, she started over a couple of years ago, but we partnered with her and actually using one of our buildings now. So it's going to be a hub for entrepreneurship. It's going to be a hub for counseling, tutoring, and some other things we're working on in the community. So actually sit on 3 different boards in Cedartown, one at the hospital, where we're trying to get patients to be a part of active roles to bring a change within the medical community, be active in their own health. Then I sit on another board which deals with, and I just got a part of this board. It is a judicial review board. Actually, children who've been taken from their homes for whatever reason, before they can go back into the homes, you have to review the home situation and make sure that the parents have fulfilled all their necessary responsibility in order to get the child back. Again, this kicked off the first of the year. With COVID, with COVID, we've had actually 2 meetings, and since COVID, we haven't been able to do anything. We've been
Wow.
hoping to get back into the court system. So those are just a few things. There's, a lot of things, summer camps and summer programs that.
So you're very active.
Yeah, I have to be. My wife said I may be touched a little bit because I'm constantly going. I don't like to sit around too much. I've worked at a place where it was a group home for kids.
Okay, yeah.
Kids have actually been taken from their parents, and I was like a house parent.
Okay.
I was there for a few years, and I saw some of the things that kids go through. And to be honest with you, it's not always the parent. A lot of times it's the child. But because they have reached a point to where there's a brick wall where the parent is fed up, something has to be done, and it's a sad situation. Both, but primarily us. I can only speak from where I'm located. If the politicians, if the city commissioners, county commissioners, they have a job to do, okay, to take care of the entire city, the entire county. But if they are investing money, let's say to support certain areas of the community, and the citizens aren't active or don't care about the city, then why should they continue to invest money in restoring a community? It is primarily the citizens' responsibility to be active in the community, report certain things that need to be reported, go to the meetings. Me personally, I've seen it happen where, again, the city has poured money into a certain area, but the citizens, the mindset has to change. If you don't value what's being done, then why should the city continue to invest the money?
So many people don't understand the importance of voting in local elections. They don't understand it's important to select the right senators, the right congressmen, and even down to your local government.
Not to cut you off, I'll say, when it comes to voting for those in the local elections, first you want somebody that's really interested in the community. Somebody that's just not out there for that position. If they're not active throughout the year, prior to an election, then why would you want to even vote for them?
Right.
I had a gentleman, the group that I told you I mentioned when we were, addressing some of the concerns in the city. I had a gentleman several years ago. He was wanting to run for a city commissioner.
Okay.
He was a guy that was not from the city. He was from out of town somewhere, but he had moved to the city, and he said he saw some things that needed to be done. And so since, he knew me, found out about me, he came and met with my organization, and we sat down at the table, and he was telling me all the things that he was going to do if he's elected.
Okay.
And I said, so you have a love for the city. You're an entrepreneur. You're going to show us how to do certain things that can reach young Black men in the community. He said, yes, I'm here. I have a vested interest. I said, okay, so tell me this. If you're not elected, are you still going to help? Oh, yes, I'm going to. Well, he wasn't elected.
Okay.
No more action.
Oh, wow.
No more presence. Nothing at all. Several years come by. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, rolls around again, and here he comes knocking on my door. And I guess he thought I had amnesia.
Yeah.
He was, telling me, he wanted support. And I said, well, you must have forgotten about the conversation we had a few years ago. Told him what he had said, and he said, I failed to do that, didn't I? I said, yes, and you don't have my vote.
Trayvon Martin's mother just qualified to run for office. I forget what position. It might be county commissioner. I'm not sure, but in Miami.
Wow.
And I feel like her name is Sabrina Fulton, but I feel like because of what happened with her son, she's going to get in there and try to make a difference if she's elected.
And that's the thing. We should be active now before something happens. Let's say after all this stuff with Black Lives Matter, with George Floyd, after all this stuff blows over, are we going to go back to life as usual? And so I would say what we should do is use this as a learning tool and begin to put systems in place now to address the issues that may arise later. I will say for Black Lives Matter, it was supposed to initially started when Trayvon Martin got killed and some of the injustices. I believe the initial thought was great, but as other people start getting involved, it started to take a whole nother route. So I do believe that, of course, Black lives do matter. So when I say that, I'm talking about, I'm not necessarily talking about supporting the organization, because
Right.
there's some things I don't believe in.
Right.
But they did bring attention to what's going on in our communities, in our nation. Well, the Tony C. Davis Show is on Facebook, as well as Roku and iTunes, where I interview people with great
Okay.
content. We talk about faith, family, fitness, finance, fun, and anything in between. So,
Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much for your time. I love you.
love
You've
you
grown
too.
to be a wonderful Black man, and I'm very proud of you.
I'm proud of you too, cousin.
Thanks,
Bye
Tony.
bye.
Bye.